Alright, so in our ongoing video library we're creating for Robert's customers in the community, our next segments are going to feature different prominent figures in the running community, just people running, just stories, caveats, entertainment. Maybe you'll learn something, maybe you'll just laugh, maybe you'll find out sometimes why people run. But, you know, our first one, we're going to focus on Coach Chris Parsons, who basically helped me get my start in the running world and helped make me who I am as a runner and the knowledge I bring.
Hey, Rob, can you hand me that men's size 10?
Really? Right now?
Sorry, man.
Thanks. I'm trying to film here. But anyway, I hope you enjoy it. You know, I'll tell you something like this as part of what I would bring to the table is one quote that I remember that I think all runners can use and share, and that is, I remember on one of my early days running in college, we're on the track and we're stretching out, and it's been a couple weeks and I'm tired, and I look up to one of the upperclassmen and I say, man, when does this ever get easy? And he says to me, it never gets easy, you just have the opportunity to get a little faster. So that's what I'll add to this video series, is running sometimes doesn't feel easy, but you're always doing something great. So I hope you enjoy the series and take a look and give us some feedback on what you think. Alright, to give you an idea of the kind of person that Coach Chris Parsons is, I have to take you back to when I first started running and his generosity to help coach me, even though I was on a competitive school and I was actually a rival to his runners. He brought me into their family and let me train with his runners, and he coached me on my off seasons, even though when it came to race day, I was racing his runners. But to him, it was more about just seeing a kid who loved to run get faster than it was about being competitive. So that tells you a lot about the kind of man it takes when it comes down to it. Alright guys, I'm so happy to be here today with one of my favorite people in the world and one of the people who helped make me who I am other than my parents, and that is the Coach Chris Parsons. We're here at Midland, and we're going to start a new series where we're going to start introducing you to some of the famous running people in our community, and we're starting with my favorite, which is Parsons. So we wanted to ask a few questions of Coach Parsons while we're up here today, and first and foremost, other than just the coaching questions that he always gets, we like to know PRs, and I don't know what my PRs are, but I want to know if Parsons knows some of his PRs.
Yes, times I don't forget. I ran 5K on 14:54 on the track, and I've run 30 minutes and 41 seconds 10K on the roads. And that's about the two I remember the most.
So what kind of mileage you run in high school?
Oh, the mile, I went 4:39 was my fastest. And 10:11, and we actually ran the full mile and the full 2 mile back, because I was back in 1978. But my PRs were my junior year when I ran 4:39, 10:11 for 2 miles. And
in college, what kind of times did you run in college?
Well,
now, just so you know, he ran for Barnesville High School and he ran for Marshall in college, so college times.
That's it, go hard. College times, I ran 5K on the track. I was around 15:05 because I did the 14:54 in an open, and 10K right around the 31K, 31 minute mark is what I was.
Did you like track or cross country better?
Oh, always cross country.
Cross country?
Yeah, and we were back then. March was in Southern Conference, so we faced teams like East Tennessee State that had all those Canadians and people from Ireland. I mean, tip-top, runners and that. So I ran Marshall my freshman year, and then I ran the roads for 2 years, and I came back my senior year and ran for Marshall.
Nice. So next up would be, actually when I was in high school, Coach Parsons helped train me, and we did a lot of training together, and he used to whoop me all the time. But what was your, just back then, I know things have changed, but back then, what would be one of your favorite workouts?
One of my favorite workouts was either like a 7 mile, basically time trial, and I had a certain course through Barbersville. I started in Pea Ridge, certain course through Barbersville, and it basically from the get-go you just busted it. And that was one of my favorite workouts. And another workout that I really liked was either mile repeats, or I used to do one that would be like 2 times a mile, 2 times an 8, and 6 times a quarter. And I would only take between the mile 2 minutes, between the 8s 1.5 minutes, and between the quarter 60 seconds. And I would run. Yeah, I remember my best workout was there, you know, the mid 4:30s, to about 2:15 range, and then all my quarters 365 or less.
Nice.
And so anyway, 3 mile warm up, 3 mile warm down. That was a great workout. I loved.
Cool. I remember doing some of those time trials with you. So I guess like next, what I think that people would like to know is on the maybe your most memorable running moment. What kind of stands out above everything else as far as memories in running?
You mean for me personally, running, racing? Well, you know, I think really for me, like I was like our coach in high school was a great guy, but he was he threw the discus. So a lot of my training was kind of trial and error. But I can always remember once I got at Marshall and I hooked up with some really good runners like Kim Nutter and trained with him day in and day out, and month after month after month, and then that summer hitting the roads and beating guys that were killing me in the fall. And I remember going to Ironton and winning a 5-mile race and running sub 25 and beating a guy that just hammered me during the fall. And so races like that, especially between my probably sophomore and junior year on the roads, those were I had a lot of great memories and some pretty decent races.
So as a coach, the question I have is, many of you who aren't familiar with Chris's program, is you can come up here and you'll find 50 guys on the track, and he'll have the most elite guys in the state, and then he'll also have people that are just like struggling to get around the track. And I've always found that like extremely inspiring that he can bring that kind of group of people together. So I guess how do you do that when you have some of the best runners in the state? You don't make it so intimidating for everybody to feel like they can be a part of your program.
Well, it probably comes by self-experience, because in high school, like at Barbersville, I was pretty much the #1 runner. And then when I went to Marshall, I had an opportunity to go to some smaller schools and all that, but my parents preached Marshall, and Marshall was really good back then. So it was just I walked on. And they kept 12 guys, and I was the 12th man on that team. So I know how it feels to run from the front, and I know how it feels to be in the last man on the team. And then, time my senior year, I was, running in the top 4 or 5 runners. So I know how it feels to be kind of all in between that. So with runners coming out on our program, we do have the elite. We got the guys in the middle, we got guys in the back. So it's important to me that each one of those guys, you train them on their level, and they pretty much get feel self-confidence, through our program.
Yeah, I mean that's what I've always noticed is it's not like just because you're good you give all your attention to those guys. It seems like everybody gets the same amount of attention, which is extremely rare, it seems like, nowadays. So finally, my last question would be as far as coaching goes, and I've heard this question a lot, and that is, why haven't you ever moved on? Like, why haven't you ever moved to the next level of coaching? You've been so successful where you are.
Well, one year at Marshall is when I was doing my graduate. Anyway, I stayed around for one more year, and I helped Coach O'Donnell, and who was a great coach. And so I got a little sense of, coaching at the college level, and I liked it and everything. But I think for me, I think I can have a more impact here at the high school level. At Cabell Midland, track and cross country, big things to do, a big sport to do. We've got, last year had almost 80 runners between the girls and the boys, and, our track boys have anywhere from 60 to 70 runners. So, there's no desire to go to that level, because I know at the college level, you're dealing with a different level runner and just a whole different mindset. And, I just like it here, and I'm going to retire here, and I'm 54. I've got about 30 years in with Cabell County, and I've got probably 20 more years to go, and yeah, at least. And I just love it here. So why move on when this is where I'm happiest right here?
Well, I can tell you this: I would not be where I am at all in my career or my running without this guy. Our whole community is lucky to have this guy around, and I just want to say thanks to Chris for letting us come out and ask him a few questions and say congratulations. I don't know how many freaking state titles this guy has, but it's a lot, and he's made. I don't know how. Do you have any clue how many athletes have gone on with scholarships for running?
You know, it's a good question. I should know that, but I actually don't know that exact number. I know here we've got 16 state titles between the cross country and the track. That many runners up over. We got 36 all-state runners. We have 4 individual state champions, 1 All-American in Jacob Bertram, and shoot, how many all individual relays and stuff? We're over 50 now of individual and relays and track. So well, kind of speaks for itself.
I know that me and Trey's behind the camera, we wouldn't have had our scholarships without this guy. So, but anyway, well, thanks for letting us come out. He's got to get to another meet this evening, so we'll let him go. But we appreciate it.
Hey, so enjoyed it.
Love you.
See you, bud.